Thank you.
Come to the table. Just state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Buenos dias. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today on Bill 240087. My name is Will Gonzalez. I'm the Executive Director of Ceiba. Ceiba is a coalition-building organization in the Latino community of Philadelphia. We are the backbone to the Ceiba Latino Equitable Development Collective. Ceiba operates the longest-serving volunteer income tax assistance VITA site in the Latino community of Philadelphia. We applaud your efforts to enact Bill 240087 to protect Philadelphia consumers, especially low-income taxpayers targeted by many of the private tax preparers to extract fees from their client refunds and to collect their taxpayer data. In many cases, the bright lights and promises of private tax preparers blind people to bypass the information about the fees that they are being charged. This happens often because the fees are not revealed up front, and their clients have a false sense of being able to afford the fees because they are expecting a large refund. Many families are seeing their refunds, their earned income tax credit, their child tax credit reduced by an average of 7 to 15% due to the cost of private tax preparers. Bait and switch is not a trick limited to used car salesmen. This problem of costs and related junk fees is exacerbated by the cost of refund anticipation loans. In other words, at a cost, people can get their reduced refunds quicker than the 10 to 14 days promised by the IRS. This gives some tax preparers the opportunity to extract additional fees and to charge high interest rates for short-term guaranteed loans. The bill the bill we're considering today, and which I hope you support, gives consumers transparency. It allows people to determine the cost of the private tax preparation at the beginning of the conversation, not after time has been spent at an office sharing a year's worth of a household's private financial information. The bill also empowers consumers by giving them a right of action to go after unscrupulous private tax preparers. This is important as enforcement is in the hands of the aggrieved party. Beware of the wrath of an aggrieved consumer. The bill also offers Philadelphians additional power over private tax preparers by giving the consumer information about the availability of free tax preparation services in their neighborhoods. Philadelphia has a rich ecosystem of free tax preparation services. We need to do everything in our power to help people connect to this great resource. In most cases, those VITA sites, like Ceiba and the Campaign for Working Families, connect those clients with asset-building programs, social services, income support, housing counseling, and utility assistance. With the consent of the clients, we use tax preparation as a gateway to asset building. So instead of extracting money from the refund, we are adding financial strength to every household we serve. That is our mission. We're not accountants. We're not tax nerds. We use this as a gateway to asset building and as a way to preserve money in Philadelphia. Most of the private tax preparers are from outside the state, and their fees end up outside of the city. Protecting people from predatory tax preparers is also important for people who are limited English proficient. Immigrants new to American financial systems and the English language are easier prey for the unscrupulous preparers. In the Latino community, we call the practice of predators who rip off immigrants in financial transactions notario fraud. Notarios present their offices as one-stop shops for various services. One of the services that you often see advertised by notarios is tax preparation. It is a natural extension of this scheme to defraud immigrants. It is important for immigrants to be current with their taxes. In general, filing taxes are demonstrations of good moral character according to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And in the application for naturalization, it specifically asks, have you ever not filed a federal, state, or local tax return since you became a permanent resident? It is important for immigrants that their tax returns are filled out correctly. Tax returns reflect the makeup of a household, the marital status of tax filers, the family income sources, and a person's honesty in claiming certain tax credits. Immigrants sometimes go to notarios even when they know that they cannot receive immigration relief. Everyone has a duty to file a tax return, even unauthorized immigrants. In general terms, the IRS requires that anyone with $4,000 worth of income file a tax return. The IRS created a number, the Individual Tax Identification, also known as the ITIN, so that unauthorized immigrants without Social Security numbers can file a tax return. Ceiba specializes in helping unauthorized immigrants file their tax returns. We are blessed that Philadelphia, the Department of Commerce, recognizes the ITIN as a tax ID number to help those unauthorized immigrants open businesses. We also are blessed in Philadelphia to have a community development financial institution called Community First Fund that helps people with ITIN secure mortgages, business loans, and personal loans. Some people say that clients should know better and that they may be accessories to the shoddy tax return preparation by notarios and the excessive fees charged by some private tax preparers. This is an easy caricaturization. It ignores the complexities of the tax laws and regulations and how intimidating it is for the average person to prepare a tax return. It also ignores the professional responsibility that paid preparers should have. In Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, barbers are more regulated than tax preparers. To be a barber, you need to secure a special license. That is not the case to be a private tax preparer. In many cases, tax preparers don't know that the notario prepared their tax return incorrectly or that a paid preparer did something wrong. With a barber, at least you can easily tell a bad haircut. What makes it even worse is that when you get a shoddily prepared tax return, by the time you find out about it, the notario, the private tax preparer, may have already closed its shop. And worse, you face serious fines and fees from the IRS. I want to end my testimony with a respectful request. Further protect consumers by adding into the legislation protections against the improper sharing of taxpayer data. I highlight for you a report prepared by some members of Congress. This 2023 report found that major tax preparation companies were sharing sensitive tax data with big tax firms like Meta and Google. This included sharing extraordinarily sensitive personal and financial information with Meta, which was used for diverse advertising purposes. It also found that big tech firms were reckless in their data sharing practices and their treatment of sensitive taxpayer data. I provided a link to that report. I also want to highlight a comment by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau by the Center for Taxpayer Rights, which calls additional attention to the misuse of taxpayer data by refund transfer products when client data is shared with financial institutions to connect with those products. The Center for Taxpayer Rights highlighted how we cannot overlook the dangers of some private preparers sharing their clients' data. I quote, "Although these products provide profits to tax return preparers as part of the original transaction, they have the potential to affect a taxpayer's life for years after the filing of the return when the taxpayer's personal, financial, and biographical data is shared with third parties. Their comments show how some refund anticipation loan providers trick consumers into forfeiting their federal protection over their data." I also provided a link to that comment. We need Bill 240087 to warn consumers about the dangers posed by private tax preparers in the realm of the sharing of financial and personal data. We applaud your efforts to protect Philadelphians and to help families keep more of their hard-earned money. Thank you very much for your attention to this matter. Please feel free to contact us if we could be of further assistance, and we'd be happy to help the Department of Revenue with any of the implementation needs. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you, Will. Councilmember Cotillard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you for
Good morning.
your testimony and for your work. I wanted to know, do you have a sense of how many people you're serving annually versus the amount of people that you could serve but aren't because they're going to the notario? And then secondly, what would it mean for your community to have people have free tax preparation that they're entitled to, that's prepared accurately, that gives them more money in their pocket, and keeps more of that money in the local community?
Thank you for the question. Thanks to the leadership of City Council, Ceiba has been able to expand its activities around free tax preparation. We have ACE and Congreso also doing them. That's thanks to your funding of the Poverty Action Fund and the Promise. And it also has allowed Ceiba to operate 7 days a week. And so, yes, we would love to see more clients. And obviously with the Campaign for Working Families and some of the other members of the Promise and the Poverty Action Fund, we can develop that capacity to serve them.
Awesome. And then, you know, what do you think it would mean for your community to have more of this funding in people's hands, in their homes, and in the local community?
Well, we've seen situations where we've literally taken people who, including unauthorized immigrants who come in, file their tax return. As you know, due diligence requires any financial institution that lends money to see 3 years of tax returns. And so also to be able to keep the $500, $600, $700 that instead of paying to a preparer to keep it in their pocket, to use that to help fix their credit, to put them in a better position for a down payment for a home. So it means a lot. Now, we have to compete with the Super Bowl ads that talk about, you know, getting your refund and immediately. But, you know, I don't think yes, sometimes it is hard for somebody to wait 10 days to get their refund. So those are some of the challenges. I mean, some cities and some VITA sites have worked with some CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions, to create their own fast refund fund. But I think it's a matter of reinforcing the need to access those good quality free products. Like I mentioned before, you know, barbers are more regulated than tax preparers. VITA sites are required to take certifications by the IRS. We get monitored by the IRS. We get audited by the IRS. So we are very regulated. We're very successful at what we do. Having more capacity with more demand would help serve the community better and help Philadelphia keep some of that money.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, yeah,
Councilmember Young.
thank you. Mr. Gonzalez, do you know like how many of these what you call notarios are either enrolled agents with the IRS, certified public accountants, or attorneys?
No, and so what happens is they play on a term of literal translation of the word notary into Spanish. So to be a notario in some Central and South American countries, not only do you have to be an attorney, but you have to be like extra, and they have additional powers. So they just take the word notary, translate it into a notario, and then people look at it. So we have some challenges, and again, City Council has played a leadership role on this. A while back, they passed some laws regulating some of the notarios, but at the same time, they pop up. I mean, you know, you guys are in your districts, not only the notarios, but the private tax preparers. You'll see they'll put up a shingle, they'll put up a storefront, end of December, and by the end of April, they're gone. Some of the more national chains will retain some presence, but even they put up pop-up places and leave. So the notarios come and go, and then there's also the informal economy, where, you know, somebody's neighbor is on the side doing these things. I think this legislation will help address some of that too, because it gives a right of action for people to report some of these things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, we'll call up the next panel. Panel 3, Cheryl Martinez, Laszlo Beth, and Lauren Smith. Sure, Lynn.